A family in Revit indicates a specific type of object. For instance, a door family would indicate a door that you're placing in your project. A window family would indicate a window. Other kinds of families would be tables, chairs, sinks, toilets. All families, all objects which have three-dimensional properties and can be loaded into a Revit environment. In this exercise, we're going to discuss how to load specific door and window families into our project. Underneath the Architecture tab, we can find two separate commands. One's the door command, and the other is the window command. In Revit, both of these commands do almost the exact same thing. As far as placing doors and windows go, they might as well be the same element because they both are treated and act the same way when it comes time to place them. That being stated though, by executing the door command, and if you move your mouse up and underneath Architecture select on door, you'll get a list of all the doors which are currently loaded into our project. So select on the picture of the door on the type selector list, and we'll see there's currently two different main types of doors loaded in our project. One are in metric, and the other are in imperial units. These we might use later on in the project, but I do see a door or two that we could use that aren't in the project at the moment. So to load these in, move your mouse over and select on Load Family off of the ribbon. When you do this, there'll be a group of folders showing on the screen, and we want to double click on the Doors folder. Now click once to highlight the very top door on the list. When you do that, you can then use the arrow keys on your keyboard to arrow down and begin to see the selection of the different types of doors that we can load into our project environment. Now, most of these will execute just perfectly whenever we first execute the door command. I do want to point out that there is a type of door, though, that we can load into the project that won't execute quite the way you might expect. And that's any door that starts with the words curtain wall. Curtain wall doors will only work inside of curtain walls. They don't work inside of regular Revit walls. Vice versa can be said as well. A regular Revit door, which works just fine inside of normal Revit walls, do not work correctly inside of curtain walls. So you always need to be careful as to which door that you load into your project so that you know that this door will place inside of this type of wall. In this instance, I want to load two separate types of doors. One will be a curtain wall door so that we can get in and out of our building. So move your mouse down and pick on Curtain Wall Storefront Double and select on Open. This is now loaded in a curtain wall door into our project environment. Something that you'll find though is if we look underneath Properties, those curtain wall doors do not show up underneath Properties. Curtain wall doors are actually special kinds of doors. They're a kind of door that will not show up underneath the door pull down. They show up underneath a different location. Now let's go ahead and load in a different type of door, the kind that loads in the walls, and we'll see it on our pull down menu over here on the side. Select on Load Family, double click on the doors. Now the kind of door that I want to load in will be an overhead door sectional. So select on Overhead Sectional and click on Open. You'll now notice that Overhead Sectional is available underneath Properties here on the Type Selector list. Just an everyday average Revit door. The one thing that's different about it though is it's the type of door that is an overhead door. You could drive cars or trucks or equipment in and out from it. This will be the kind of door that ultimately we'll be placing over here in this outbuilding that we have beside our main structure. For right now, we're just going to leave these doors alone, so hit escape a couple times to get out of the command. Now that we've loaded in two kinds of doors, one for curtain walls and one that'll go into a regular wall, I want to load in now a window that we can start to place into this outbuilding structure here as well. And I'd also like to place that window here inside of our main building structure. To do that, move the mouse up and then select on the command for window. You'll notice that there's an option here and it'll say fixed. This is the type of window that's currently loaded in the project. If we want to load some more, once again, we could come over here to Load Family and we could click on the word Load Family to load these directly in. But I want to show you another spot where we can load families into a project. Underneath the Insert tab, there's a button there called Load Family, and this does the exact same thing. The big difference is whenever you execute it from underneath Insert it will just load that family in and not try to place that family automatically. Click Load Family, scroll down, double click on Windows, and in this case, I want to load a double hung window in. Now, before you double click on it or click on Open, I just want to say that if you click on it once, you'll get a preview of it just like you did with the doors. Also, another type that's here is double hung with trim. If you click on double hung with trim, you'll see there's trim now all the way around this window. This works the same with doors. This is actually the way that I usually recommend adding trim to a door or a window, is picking one that already has the trim around the outside edge of it, and make certain that the door or window has the right size trim going around the exterior edge, as opposed to not having it and then trying to place it later, which usually ends up being a lot more work. In this case, I think I will choose the double hung with trim and click on Open to load this into the project environment. I'm going to hit Escape in order to get out of the original window command that I'd had activated before going to Insert and clicking on Load Family. Now, the thing to remember is whenever you're going to be loading these different door and window families in, there's two different spots that you can do it from. The first spot is going to be from underneath Insert and then Load Family. And the other spot that you can load them in from is by executing the command themselves. So in this instance, Architecture, Door, and then choosing on Load Family. This is how you insert doors into existing walls. To do it, underneath the Architecture tab, first select on the Door command. After selecting on Door, find underneath the Properties on the Type Selector list the 8-foot by 6-foot 6-inch overhead sectional door, and select on the dimensions themselves. If you select on the picture or on the gray, it won't work. You have to select on the actual dimensions for that door upon placement. You can see a preview of this door we're getting ready to place. We can see the sill height at 0 feet 0 inches, so that's how high this door is going to be off of the ground. Move your mouse into the drawing area, and when you do, you'll see a circle with a line through it. This is indicating that doors can only be placed in walls. And currently, it's not on a wall, so there's no place for us to be able to place this door. But if you move your mouse straight down until it's touching one of the walls, you'll be able to see that door trying to get placed into the wall. In fact, in this case, let's go ahead and place 2 of these doors in. Move your mouse over, then when you get the 6-foot dimension, click in order to place the door. Move your mouse over again. When you see the 6-foot dimension on the right, click again, and that will place another one of these overhead doors into our project. Now I'd like to place a normal swinging door, access door, here in the side of the building. To do that, we can stay in the command, but we'll need to click on the pull-down menu, which is the Type Selector list, and select 36 by 84 off of the list. It too is going to have a sill height of 0 feet 0 inches. It also has a head height of 7 feet. Move your mouse over so that it's selecting on the wall that we want to place this door into. Now, before I even click, you'll see that if I move to the left-hand side, the door will swing out. And if I move my mouse to the right-hand side, the door is going to swing in. Also, if I want to change this from being a right-hand swinging door to a left-hand, you can just click the space bar to flip it from one hand to the other. Place it where you'd like to in the wall just by clicking. Now we have the door and it's in the right place. Hit Escape a couple of times on the keyboard to get out of the command. Another function of doors that I want to show is if you select on the icon of the door, with most doors you'll see a pair of arrows. If you click one of those pair, it'll flip the door swing from being in the building to out of the building. The other one will change it from being a left-hand to a right-hand swinging door. So even after placement, you can adjust the door swing so it's going in the appropriate direction. Now I'd like to place a few more doors on the interior side of our building. In this case, zoom into this part of the building. And the 2 doors I'd like to add are going to be a door here and a door here leading into our restroom areas. At some time in the future, we'll add some doors for an elevator, as well as a door to be leading into our staircase area. Select on the door command one more time. 36 by 84 in this case works just fine for me. If I didn't want to have this kind of door, I could always come up here to load and then load in a different type of door for this condition, but 36 by 84 should work just fine for this area. Move down here, hit the space bar in order to switch the door swing so that it's up against the wall. and then click to place that door in. Do the same thing over here. Move your mouse over, hit the space bar if need be to switch the door swing, click, and now we have doors in both of these different locations. Zoom back out again so you can see your doors. One other item that I want to point out is there is an option here for tag on placement. Had tag on placement been checked, then the second we would have placed these doors in, it would have automatically placed a door tag in each of these door locations. So to place a normal door, just remember, click on the Architecture tab, click on Door, then select the appropriate door off of the list. Move your cursor over, find a place where you want to place a door, and then click, and that will place the door in that location. Placing doors into a curtain wall system is much different from placing a door into a regular wall. In fact, if all you do is select a door off of the list underneath Architecture, and then try to place it directly onto the curtain wall, you notice that it won't even allow that to occur. The reasoning behind this is that a normal door will only insert into a wall. It will not insert into a panel. And that's what a curtain wall is actually made up of. It's a series of panels that are joined together by a mullion. As a result of that, we don't want to place a regular door into a curtain wall. We want to be able to place a panel which acts like a door into the curtain wall. To accomplish this, we're going to be best served by trying to go into an elevation view and then placing this door from the elevation view. I'm going to hit Escape a couple of times to get out of the command. Underneath your project browser, double-click on the word South underneath Elevations. This will bring up the south elevation of your building. Where I'd like to place a door in will be right in this panel right here. I'm going to move my mouse up and then highlight right where that panel is at, and then click the Tab key. Now for some people, this might start to tab through and be able to highlight the individual panel as I highlight over that line and then hit Tab. In my case, it's making music. What it's trying to indicate to me is that this is currently locked or it's currently pinned down. As a result of that, if you're in Revit 2014, you'll have some pin tools over here. And this one is called Select Pinned Elements. Click on this button here if you're getting that music. It's not allowing you to select. When you do, you should be able to then move your mouse back up. More than likely, an individual mullion will highlight, just like mine is. And then if you click the Tab key on the keyboard, continue to do that until eventually one panel is highlighted blue all the way around that panel. Then just click in order to highlight it. When it's highlighted, you'll see a pin. Click on the little pinhead to unlock this particular panel so that it can be modified. At this point, go to your Properties tab, and you'll see that this is a System Panel Glazed. Click on System Panel Glazed, and at the bottom of this list, click on the word Storefront Double. And it will replace that particular panel with this style of door, which is a particular door panel. One problem we have here, though, is it's currently sitting on top of a mullion. To get rid of this extra little mullion, simply highlight where that mullion is at, unpin it by clicking on the little pinhead, and then either right-clicking and deleting, or just hitting the delete key on your keyboard, and you'll see that the door will automatically adjust the fit inside of that particular panel. We can do the same sort of thing with our interior curtain walls. Let's close this view down by just clicking on the X up here in the corner. Select on your 3D view, and let's take a look at our interior curtain walls. I want to point out that you can spin this building around by holding down the Shift key and the wheel on your mouse at the same time, and now move your mouse from side to side while holding the Shift key and the wheel down. In this case, once you're in a position to be able to see your two interior curtain walls, zoom in, move your mouse over where one of these panels is located at, and then hit the Tab key and then highlight on that particular panel. You'll notice that this panel is grayed out over here currently under Properties. Click the pinhead, it's no longer grayed out. You can once again replace this with the Storefront Double. If you zoom in, move your mouse until that mullion at the bottom highlights, unpin it, and then click the delete key on your keyboard. Do the same thing over here on the side. When you're at the edge, hit the Tab key until the panel highlights. Once it highlights, click on it, unpin it, change this to be the Storefront Double, click on the mullion, unpin it, hit delete, and now we have doors on the inside of our building. So to be able to place doors into curtain walls, it's important to remember that you can't place a regular door into a curtain wall. It has to be a door panel. And to do that, you need to hit Tab to highlight the panel. Once that panel is highlighted, and sometimes you might need to move your mouse around to get it, you click on it, unpin it if required, and then choose the appropriate door off of the panel list. Revit has an interesting trick that allows us to be able to space our windows evenly, either on a wall or inside of a space. Here's the trick. I'm going to zoom in on this building in the upper right-hand side of our screen. And I want to space our windows evenly along this wall. Underneath the Annotate tab, we're going to select on the Align dimension. So pick Align. You'll notice it has Wall Centerline as an option. We don't want that. We're going to change this to be wall faces instead. And individual references is exactly what we want to have. What we're going to do with this dimension is we're going to pick the outside face of the wall. We're then going to click where the center of the window shows up, click again where the center of the window shows up, and then click on the outside face of the wall. This next part is fairly important. Move your mouse up and then click somewhere out here in space without selecting on anything else. When you do that, you'll have this dimension string coming all the way across and a little EQ with a line going through it. This stands for equal. So when we click on the EQ with a line, it's now equalized the dimensions between this spot and this spot and this spot and this spot. It's the same distance. We can see that if we hit escape a couple times on the keyboard, select on the line that makes up the EQ dimension, and underneath Properties, it'll say Equality Text. Click where it has Equality Text, select the little down arrow, and then change this to be Value. Move your mouse into the drawing area, and you'll now see the spacing between each of these windows. If you just click out here in space, there you'll have your dimension string. If you want to leave that, that's okay. But another thing that you can do is just select on that dimension string and hit the delete key on your keyboard. It's going to give you a warning message. Don't worry too much about this right now. Click on the OK button. What the warning message was saying is that even though the dimension is gone, these windows are going to continue to be equal no matter what happens to our drawing, whatever happens to our building. What this means is if you select on this outer wall here, now look at your keyboard, click the right arrow key. You'll notice if you start tapping on the right arrow key, it's going to nudge that wall over to a different location. But as you nudge that wall over, the window stayed centered along whatever the length of that wall is. Go to the left again, it'll do the same thing. Now in order to get the wall back in the location that it was at, I'm going to click and hold my mouse button down along the edge, and then let go when it snaps onto that green line, and then click out into space. You'll also notice that the window that was on this wall here actually moved out with it, and it stayed locked when you moved it back in. Now, I want to do the same thing with these windows here, but instead of having those windows be centered or equally spaced along the length of the entire wall, I want them to be evenly spaced inside of this particular room. To do that, we also need to use the Align Dimension string. Once again, make sure Wall Faces is picked. Click the interior wall face, and then the interior location, or the center location in this case, of each of the windows, and the interior wall. Then select somewhere out here in space. Find that little EQ sign, click on the EQ, and it will equalize between this spot to this spot to this spot to this spot. Now our windows are centered inside of the room. So to be able to equally space your windows either along the outside of a wall or on the inside of a room, be sure to select on the Annotate command, pick the Align Dimension off of the list, pick each spot you want to dimension to, and then select the little EQ to equally space them between each of those points that you picked. In this exercise, we're going to place windows into our walls. To do this, we come underneath the Architecture tab and select on the command Window. After picking on Window, we'll see underneath Properties on the Type Selector list, there'll be a picture of the window that by default is going to try to place. The one that shows up here is whatever the last one that would have been placed in the project or the first one to load. If you click where the picture of that window is at, you'll see fixed windows as well as the double hung windows that were loaded into the project. For this example, I'd like to have a double hung window, and I am going to choose the 36 by 48 off of the list. We'll notice under properties when we did that our sill height and head height adjusted to be appropriate for this size and this type of window. If we wanted the changes to be something else, we could. For instance, if we wanted this head height to be 6'10" instead, click inside of the comments just so that we're not inside of this box. And you'll see that the sill height automatically adjusted by 2 inches. If we change the sill height to be 3 foot, the head height, when we click inside of comments, will automatically adjust to be the appropriate height. Now, move your mouse over and click right in the middle of this wall, or at least get it close to the middle of the wall. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can take a look at it. Here's right in the middle of the wall, and I'm going to click in order to place this window in. Now, something about this window, if I zoom in a little bit tighter, I can see that when I placed it, the glass is on the inside. If your glass is toward the outside, that's fine. That's actually where the glass should be. But when I click to place it, I accidentally clicked in slightly the wrong location, and the glass is toward the inside of the window. To flip the window, I can just click on the window, click on the double arrows that show up then, and now the glass is closer to the outside, which is the general area where the glass should be in relationship to everything else in this wall. We're going to place a couple more windows in, one here and one right here. So activate the window command, keep the same settings that you had before, click the place one, click the place another one, and now we have 2 windows in there going across the top. I'd also like to add in at least a couple windows on our main building down below. In fact, I'd like to add them inside of this room right here. To do that, once again, we're going to activate the window command underneath the architecture tab. And in this case, I don't want to have a double hung with trim. I want to use a fixed window that's 36 by 72, so a nice large window in this space. I'm not going to change the sill height or head height, but I could at this point. I'm going to move my mouse and then start to place this window here on the inside. Whenever you see these dimensions show up, if the dimension is on the outside of the building like this, traditionally, if we're going to place the window the way that we are, this means that the inside of the window is on the outside of the building. In other words, if you see these temporary dimensions show up there on the outside, it's indicating that the side that the temporary dimensions are on, whenever we're dimensioning to the center of the window, that is the inside of the window. As a result of that, I want the temporary dimensions to be on the inside of the building. So if I move my mouse up, now that the temporary dimensions are on the inside of the building, and I know that those temporary dimensions are on the inside of the window, I know that I have my window facing in the right direction. So click. Once again, make sure those temporary dimensions are on the inside of the window or on the inside of the building, and click again in order to be able to place those windows into the wall. So to place windows into a wall, it's just a matter of selecting on architecture, picking on window, picking the appropriate window off of the list, setting your head height and sill height to be appropriate, and then picking the spot along the wall where you want that window to be located. Tagging doors and windows in Revit is one of the fastest things that you can do in the program. I will point out that when you're first dropping the doors and windows in, when you execute that command, and in this case I picked on the architecture command, I'm going to pick on door, that if tag on placement had been highlighted, it would have automatically placed the tags in at each door location as I was dropping them in. But perhaps we didn't want to have that, or maybe we made a copy of the view, the tags just didn't carry over into the copy of the view. If we want to be able to place tags after the fact, we can do that. Underneath the Annotate tab, there's going to be an option called Tag All. Technically, it's Tag All, not Tagged. Highlight Door Tags, come down on the list, hold down the Control key, and select on Window Tags. Now that door tags and window tags are both highlighted, if you select on OK, it will automatically tag every door and window in the project. Now, certain types of doors, such as the regular doors that we placed in, will have a number already associated with it. And the reason is that doors and windows, when they're first inserted in, will automatically have a number usually associated with them. But certain kinds of doors, such as the ones you'll find in your curtain walls, by default usually don't have a door number associated with them. So to give them a door number, you can just click on the door tag, click on the little question mark that shows up down there, and then you can fill in that information. For instance, if this needs to be number 6 or 106, you can type that information in. I can come up here, select on this, click the question mark, type the appropriate information. Another thing that I could do is go into the schedule and change it on the door schedule. It would automatically update here in the bubbles. Also, if I select on the door itself, look over for its mark number over here, and type in whatever number I want it to be. In this case, I'll type in a longer number, such as 109. We can now see that this is door number 109. So as a result of this, if you want to tag your doors and windows, and actually a variety of other objects, quickly on the fly, it's a simple matter of coming up here to the Annotate tab, selecting on Tag All, telling it which objects you want to give a tag to, and then clicking OK, and it'll automatically tag each and every one of them. Then to change the information in the tag, either go into the door schedule and change it there. In this case, this project currently doesn't have a door schedule set up. You can change it by selecting on the door itself and then changing the properties of it over here. Or finally, you can select on the tag, click in the tag, and then manually change it to be the number you want it to be.